There's a name in Hollywood that commands instant attention. A man whose on-screen brilliance left crowds breathless and critics gasping. Robert De Niro carved a reputation as the ultimate gangster figure, the actor who could slip into any skin and make you believe it. For decades, moviegoers stood in awe of his discipline and his thrilling, unpredictable spirit. But that same fire that turned him into a legend also threatened to burn everything he built: marriages, friendships, finances, and the very sanctity of his privacy. At 81, he's staring into the mirror of a life that has been anything but calm. Harsh divorces, million-dollar lawsuits, and open attacks on powerful politicians have dogged him in the spotlight. Whispers of an explosive temper trailed him from set to set, scaring producers, co-stars, and personal assistants alike. Now, after years of silence, he's forced to confront a rumor that's lingered for ages, one that slices straight to the bone. But before that final revelation, we must start at the beginning, where a single confession from his father first lit the fuse of what would become a brilliant but stormy existence. August 17th, 1943, inside a cramped Manhattan apartment overshadowed by the city's relentless energy, Virginia Admiral holds her newborn son Robert for the very first time. She's a painter, gifted and restless, forever chasing new ideas across her canvases. Her partner, Robert De Niro Sr., is a sculptor whose large, calloused hands can coax impossible beauty from stubborn stone. But in this fragile family, art isn't the only burning force. When Robert is barely 2 years old, the family unravels. In a hushed conversation that crackles with tension, his father confesses he's gay. Virginia's eyes flare with disbelief and betrayal. Little Robert, Bobby as they call him, toddles around, too young to understand the words but not the emotion. Within days, Virginia's packing boxes and leaving the only home they've known. She moves them to Greenwich Village and then Little Italy, determined to support herself and her child on a starving artist's income. Bobby senses the underlying despair in his mother's sighs and downcast glances. He's a thin, ghostly figure wandering between two worlds, one overshadowed by the memory of a father who drifted away, another shaped by the mother who pours her heartbreak onto every canvas. In the cramped, paint-scented apartment, he feels unseen and unprotected. Outside on the street, the local kids in Little Italy label him Bobby Milk, jeering at his pallor and odd, lonely aura. Yet there's something about their brazen spirit that fascinates him. They have a sense of camaraderie he craves, even if it cuts him like glass. At home, Virginia tries to be both mother and father, layering discipline with a fierce, protective love. Bobby sits on the floor at her feet, doodling or daydreaming while she paints. She wants him to choose a safer path than she did, avoiding the instability of artistic dreams. But Bobby's mind drifts elsewhere, a place lit by stage lights. His father sporadically visits and takes him to see movies, a hallowed few hours where father and son quietly bond in the flicker of the projector. When the film ends and the reel sputters out, they step into the daylight as strangers again. Even at that young age, Bobby can feel how distant and fragile their connection is. For a boy who rarely belongs anywhere, the stage beckons like salvation. When he turns 10, he lands a small part in a school production of The Wizard of Oz. Playing the cowardly lion, he roars and shrinks on cue, discovering a spark inside that makes strangers laugh and applaud. In that fleeting moment, he's not the tired mother's quiet child, not the father's forgotten kid. He's a performer, and the applause crackles through him like electricity. His father's in the audience, smiling with what looks like genuine pride, one of the few times Bobby ever sees warmth in that man's eyes. By his teenage years, the stage becomes an obsession. While other kids are flirting over milkshakes and sneaking cigarettes behind the gym, Bobby sneaks into drama classes at the HB studio in Manhattan, paying whatever he can scrape together, or sometimes slipping in for free when no one's looking. He's got a quiet hunger that draws attention from instructors who see something real flickering in those dark eyes. Virginia doesn't understand his passion. She scolds him about neglected chores and incomplete homework, warning him there's no money, no stability in this life he's chasing. But the caution falls on deaf ears. By 16, he's more alive on a stage than in any classroom. His escape plan is simple. He stops going to school. Virginia's heartbreak is deafening. She clutches his arm, calling him reckless, telling him he'll regret leaving his education behind. But Bobby doesn't look back. He hurls himself into technique, devouring the teachings of acting icons like Stella Adler. Night after night, he practices monologues in his cramped bedroom, ignoring the neighbors' complaints about the noise. He tries to lose himself in each role, inhabiting characters with a fervor that startles his classmates. He's not the loudest actor or the showiest, but there's an unsettling intensity in every word he utters. Paying rent on a dumpy place near Little Italy becomes a constant worry. His mother helps when she can, but it's never enough. Auditions are a slap to the face, dismissive glances, condescending remarks. Sometimes, after stumbling through an audition, he wanders the streets, nursing a stale coffee to keep his mind from spiraling. His father tries to offer scattered advice. Stop letting them get to you. Show them what you're made of. But he's not around often enough to make a difference. Yet there is progress. if only in inches. He lands a tiny part in a forgettable, off-Broadway piece, a blink-and-you'll-miss-it role in an indie film that never sees the light of day. Each disappointment fortifies his drive. With every rejection, he tells himself the same thing: if they can do it, so can I. It becomes his private prayer, echoing through every restless night. In the early 1960s, chance finally meets desperation. A budding director named Brian De Alma casts him in The Wedding Party, a chaotic, low-budget film that stutters into production. Bobby's performance brims with raw potential, but the project hits production snags and doesn't see release until years later. When it does surface, the credits misspell his name as De Niro instead of De Niro, setting the stage for a future in which the world would know him by that version of his name. Though The Wedding Party barely makes a ripple, De Alma recognizes his talent. He gives Bobby 2 more small roles in films that edge closer to mainstream attention. One of them, Greetings, turns heads at the Berlin Film Festival for its provocative take on draft dodgers. Critics write about the off-kilter intensity of the young actor who does so much with so little screen time. He's still unknown, but the hush around him is growing into a murmur. Then there's Hi, Mom, a wild, envelope-pushing satire that challenges censors and showcases De Niro's willingness to dive into edgy territory. These productions don't make him a star overnight, but they shape his identity as a risk-taker, a method actor who pours his blood into every scene. Sleep becomes a luxury, money remains tight, but his name is out there, swirling around the undercurrent of American cinema. By 1969, he's desperate for any paying job and signs up for a small production called Sam's Song. It's a flop, but that's not the worst of it. A decade later, the film is re-edited and morphed into a tawdry flick titled The Swap, plastering his face on promotional material for something he never agreed to. It's a betrayal, a violation of trust that he can't legally undo because he's still too small time to fight big producers. The rage builds inside him, a fury aimed at an industry that can devour you without a second thought. He trudges on, eventually landing a role in Roger Corman's low-budget gangster epic, Bloody Mama. It's gritty, violent, and exactly the kind of intense, dramatic playground he thrives in. When the film gains traction with audiences, he realizes there's a pathway to a certain kind of fame here, portraying gritty characters on the edge of society. Other offers trickle in, until one day he finds himself auditioning for a part that changes everything. Bang the drum slowly. No one expects much from the baseball drama, but his portrayal of a ballplayer facing mortality blindsides critics. Suddenly, newspapers and magazines print his name in bold letters, calling him a revelation. Directors stop ignoring him in auditions. He's clawed his way from nowhere, earning grudging respect from the industry that once dismissed him. Then comes the lightning strike. Working with Martin Scorsese on a raw, nerve-jangling piece called Mean Streets, set in their mutual old stomping grounds of Little Italy, the film showcases De Niro's explosive energy as Johnny Boy, a reckless gambler spiraling into doom. Reviewers can't stop talking about him. He's no longer just a mysterious up-and-comer. He's on the brink of true stardom. Fame creeps up on Robert De Niro inch by inch until it suddenly envelops him like a storm cloud. In 1974, he lands the role of young Vito Corleone in The Godfather Part 2, stepping into a shadow Marlon Brando cast in the first film. His nerves are paralyzing, but he channels every drop of anxiety into studying Sicilian dialects and perfecting every nuance. The performance wins him an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. In that triumphant moment, clutching the gold statue under the hot glare of stage lights, he becomes Robert De Niro, the next big name in Hollywood. Yet not long after this high, he's plunged into one of the rawest performances of his career, Taxi Driver. Immersing himself in the role of Travis, an unstable cabbie with a haunted psyche, he roams seedy neighborhoods at night and welcomes exhaustion to fuel authenticity on screen. The film shatters audience complacency, garnering both horror and awe. People repeat one line over and over, "You talking to me?" like a national mantra. From there, the hits keep coming. The Last Tycoon, The Deer Hunter, and eventually, Raging Bull, each film adding fresh layers of myth and mystique to the name Robert De Niro. But behind the accolades, there's a tension coiling like a snake in his chest. Directors whisper that he's a perfectionist or maybe just impossible. He arrives on set stone-faced, demanding endless takes, pushing co-stars to match his intensity. Some love him for it, others call him a tyrant. Off camera, he has no patience for nonsense, especially when reporters poke at his personal life. Early interviews are nightmares. They ask him about Virginia, about his father who quietly vanished from his childhood. They dig for heartbreak, for trauma, for any soft spot in his armor. Each prying question tightens the knot in his stomach. By the mid-1970s, he's already sparring with the press, abruptly ending interviews that edge too close to the truth. He grows guarded, erecting a fortress around his private world. The silent pressure of stardom stings like 1,000 paper cuts. Everywhere he goes, cameras flash. Every misstep is a headline. He wants to bury himself in his craft and forget the rest. But the tension is building, and one day the top is going to blow off. By the early 2000s, De Niro's name stands alongside legends. He's worked with the finest directors and shared the screen with icons. Critics still hail him as one of the greatest to ever do it. But the rumor mill picks up speed around this time, fueled by a string of ugly incidents on set, shouting matches with production staff, abrupt walkouts, furious phone calls that leak to the tabloids. He's no longer just an intense actor. He's seen as a time bomb. The trouble escalates dramatically in 2019 when Graham Chase Robinson, a longtime personal assistant at his Canal Productions, sues him for $12 million. She claims he fostered a toxic work environment filled with belittling remarks, borderline harassment, and unreasonable demands like expecting her to mend his clothes and decorate his Christmas tree on short notice. The lawsuit spills dirty details all over the media, painting an alarming portrait of an 80-year-old legend unraveling. De Niro strikes back, countersuing Robinson for $6 million, accusing her of rampant credit card abuse on his account and binge-watching, streaming shows instead of working. The court proceedings become a spectacle. Both sides present damning emails and recorded conversations, airing the kind of private drama De Niro spent decades trying to hide. In one emotional outburst inside the courtroom, he points an accusing finger and yells, "Shame on you!" at Robinson, his face burning with rage. The judge has to step in, urging everyone to settle down. It's a public bruise that reopens old wounds from the times he was betrayed early in his career, like that fiasco with the swap. He can't escape the echo of that familiar sting. They butchered me, they twisted my words, they used me. Except now the stage is a courtroom and the entire world is watching. If that weren't enough, his fiery opinions on then-President Donald Trump are making headlines too. He doesn't bother to tame his language, calling Trump a pig and punk on national TV. In 2018, a wave of pipe bombs targets several high-profile Trump critics. One bomb is addressed to Robert De Niro's production office in Tribeca. The device is neutralized before it can explode, but the message is clear. His outspoken anger has consequences. For a man who once hated interviews and public scrutiny, he's now front-page news for reasons that turn his stomach. Away from the limelight, his personal life is equally stormy, marked by romances and breakups that leave scars he rarely discusses. In 1976, he weds Deanna Abbott, an aspiring actress with her own share of ambitions. They have a son, Raphael, and De Niro adopts her daughter from a previous relationship. For a time, it looks like they've formed a steady home, until the yada pressures of his career and his explosive nature come crashing in. By 1988, they finalize a divorce, leaving De Niro consumed with guilt over repeating the cycle of emotional distance he felt from his own father. Soon after, he finds a spark with Tukey Smith. Vibrant and confident, she offers a sense of warmth he desperately needs. They welcome twin boys, Julian and Aaron, through IVF. For a moment, it seems he's found something real, a life anchored by fatherhood. Yet by 1996, they part ways, leaving him with 2 young children and a heart full of regrets. He tries to be there for his sons, but constant filming schedules and personal demons haunt him. Then there's Grace Hightower, a former flight attendant who captures his attention in the late 1990s. She exudes a serenity he craves. They marry in 1997, have a son, Elliot, in 1998, and later a daughter, Helen Grace, through surrogacy in 2011. But from the start, their relationship is fraught. On again, off again separations that send the tabloids into a frenzy. In 2018, they split for good, igniting a nasty divorce battle that drags on until 2021. The final settlement carves out a chunk of his fortune, $1 million a year, plus a new home for Grace, plus half their estate. His lawyer publicly admits that the legendary actor is forced to accept roles he can't stand, purely to keep up with the crushing financial demands. At 78, De Niro is back on the wheel, scrambling to pay legal fees and settlements, forced to wear characters on screen when his soul craves peace. He's an aging icon turned into a workhorse by the very machine he once dominated. Through it all, he tries to remain a father, scheduling visits, calling kids who've moved on, bridging chasms he helped create. But the heartbreak sits heavy in his chest. He wants the family he never had, but what he gets are fleeting moments, scattered across phone lines and shared custody agreements. The sense of isolation is inescapable, a silent echo in any room he occupies. Despite the chaos, Robert De Niro has always stayed tight-lipped about certain personal details. Speculations swirl on social media and in hushed Hollywood circles. Some revolve around alleged behind-the-scenes blow-ups on film sets. Others revolve around business dealings that might not be fully above board. But one rumor in particular keeps emerging, a question about his father, about the effect of that early confession that shattered his childhood. For decades, fans and tabloids have whispered that De Niro carried a deeper secret passed down from his father's lifestyle, something that shaped him more profoundly than he ever let on. Some say he tried to bury it. Others think it drove him to push boundaries in his performances, channeling repressed fury or shame. The rumor itself has changed shapes over the years. Some speculate it's about an entire second family, others that it involves hush money payouts for an undisclosed personal matter. People ask him about it in interviews, but he always dodges. He's deflected, joked, or changed the subject so quickly that few bother to press him. Then one night, in a rare moment of candor, he seemed to acknowledge it head-on. He didn't give details, just the barest hint that something unspeakable overshadowed his early years and fueled his escape into acting. It's not about outing his father. De Niro has made peace with that part of his history. It's something else, something possibly darker, yet no one can pin it down. "I've carried a lot of weight from those days," he said, voice trembling. "What you see on the screen isn't just a performance, it's personal." That statement lit up the internet, but he hasn't elaborated since, leaving fans and insiders to piece together theories. Now, with age loosening his grip on secrecy, people wonder if he'll finally spill the full truth. Whatever it is, he's lived with it for nearly 8 decades. It's tied to the heartbreak in his family, the rage in his roles, and the meltdown moments that shattered his marriages. Even at 81, the rumor's still alive, a puzzle with only one piece missing. Those who know him best say that revealing this final piece might be the only way for him to find real closure, but they also fear the cost. Today, standing on the twilight edge of his career, Robert De Niro reflects on a life story that could be mistaken for a Hollywood script. He's the man who wrestled the biggest studios to make them see his worth, the artist who soared to Oscar glory more than once, and the one who sparred publicly with a president and walked away unbowed. He's also the husband who lost multiple loves, the father who struggled to hold a broken family together, and the boss entangled in legal drama that tarnished his once impenetrable facade. Some believe he's finally finding a sense of calm, traveling less for work, spending more time with his kids. Others say the old fight in him remains, that he'll never be done defying expectations or railing against injustice. He's gone, on record insisting he still has stories to tell, fresh roles he hasn't tackled. In that same breath, he's also admitted he's tired, bone tired from decades of conflict, exhaustion slipping through the cracks in his tough persona, yet the rumor persists, floating around like a ghost that refuses to leave. For all his ferocity and brilliance, Robert De Niro remains haunted by the echoes of his father's secret and whatever unresolved truths he still guards. If he chooses to speak up, Hollywood might witness one last shocking confession from the man whose life has been one wild collision of art, controversy, and heartbreak. Or perhaps he'll keep it locked away, letting the legends and gossip swirl long after he's gone. What's certain is that we rarely see talent this raw and unfiltered, an actor who lived every role like a lifeline, who fused his personal anguish with cinematic prowess so profoundly that millions still revere his performances. In the end, what truly defined him? The roles that made us gasp, or the battles that nearly destroyed him? The answer perhaps lies in the rumor he's yet to confirm, in a legacy built on both unstoppable craft and uncontainable rage. No matter how time or tabloids may twist the legend of Robert De Niro, one fact stands unshaken. He took the world by storm and made us believe in the power of pure, unbridled commitment to a dream. It's a story that may never fully finish, not until the last whispered question finds its answer, and De Niro, the consummate performer, steps into his final curtain call.